Is that true, or is just that what you've convinced yourself?
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Hello and welcome to the Amateur of Life and Death podcast. I'm Luke Plymmer. Each episode takes a look at a different aspect of the world of amateur theatre and features an amateur theatre maker talking about their theatrical life, theatrical loves and the times when they've died on stage. Our Backstage pass holder John O'Neill will also take us behind the scenes at the Crescent Theatre Birmingham to discover more about what goes into making a great amateur production. Today's episode is all about the comedies of William Shakespeare, and I'm going to be interviewing the director of the Crescent's upcoming production, Much Ado About Nothing, Michael Barry. Now, Laura sadly wasn't able to be here today, but she's going to give us some exciting factual content now, so let's head over to that. Over to you, Laura.
Fun facts about Shakespearean comedies. 1. Any actress tackling the smart-talking Rosalind in As You Like It is faced with learning 685 lines, making it Shakespeare's longest female role and a bigger part than the likes of Prospero, 656 lines, Romeo, 617 lines, and Falstaff in Henry IV Part 1, 602 lines. 2. In Much Ado About Nothing, it has been suggested that the word nothing in the play's title is an intentional bit of clever wordplay. In Shakespearean England, the word nothing could also be pronounced much like noting, which not only meant to take note of something, but also to overhear or intentionally eavesdrop. So, because it's through misunderstandings and misnotings that much of the action of the play comes about, Much Ado About Nothing could be interpreted as being much ado about quite a lot of stuff, actually. 3. The Taming of the Shrew is infamous for its plot about a young man, Petruchio, who tries to persuade the strong-willed Catherine to marry him against her wishes. In 2019, the RSC staged a gender-swapped version of The Taming of the Shrew. Set in a 1590s matriarchal England where women hold all the power, all the female characters became male and were played by men, and vice versa. 4. On December 28, 1594, Shakespeare theatrical troupe The Lord Chamberlain's Men were booked to give a Christmas performance of The Comedy of Errors at the Gray's Inn in London. Things didn't exactly go to plan. The Lord Chamberlain's Men arrived late, by which time the stage had been all but dismantled and the audience were completely plastered. Although they gave the best performance they could, the night went down in local legend as the Night of Errors. It turns out the bard may have been double booked. None other than Queen Elizabeth I herself had also asked them to perform for her on the same night. An invitation difficult to refuse. And now, let's hear from Luke.
Okay, so we're really, really happy now to welcome Michael Barry onto the podcast. Thanks for coming on, Michael. So your next directing project with the Crescent is William Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing. So can you tell us a bit about what that play's about or how you've approached this production?
This play, one of Shakespeare's most famous and most performed comedies, really. Essentially, at the heart of this is our two couples, and it's about a very different kind of romance. One couple are your traditional young love, they see each other, it's almost love at first sight. The other couple, slightly older, every time they meet they argue. Absolutely every time. Somebody says they have a kind of merry war going on between them. Now, they inevitably are not going to get together unless there's an intervention. So their friends make it an intervention by letting them overhear them talking about how the other one loves the other one. So that piques their interest. Now, the other couple, it all seems to be incredibly straightforward, except somebody doesn't want that marriage to take place. So there's a plot to sully her name, really. Okay. And it's all false, but the guy does a terrible thing because he turns up for the wedding, gets the point he's going to marry her and says, no, I'm not going to go ahead. And so it's completely shaming. You can probably work out that it all gets okay in the end. It's a great play. It's got some wonderful lines and moments in it. It's great for... What I think is good about it is that it's absolutely perfect for the time of year, spring, hopefully coming out of the worst excesses of the pandemic and perhaps people feeling a little bit more optimistic. And what we wanted to do is make a really nice evening in the theatre.
Yeah.
It's all set in Italy, so it's going to feel very warm and sunny and beautiful evenings and all of that sort of thing.
Yeah, nice. Because you've directed quite a few productions before, so what is it that draws you to a particular production?
That's a very good question, because I think I'm always interested in the thing I'm doing at that moment most. And there are very few things that I think I would probably to say, oh, do you know what, I'm not that interested in doing that play. There's usually something about it that interests me. In every production that I've ever done, I become involved in it, and that's the one I want to be doing at that moment.
Yeah, great. So Much Ado is listed as one of Shakespeare's comedies. So what are the challenges of directing comedy, particularly Shakespeare comedy?
Shakespeare, a lot of things that Shakespeare found very funny, we don't really find quite so funny today. Some of the jokes, if you like, for want of a better word, that he puts in, some of the plays on words kind of fall a bit flat. So you have to find a way of doing it that appeals to a modern audience, that is more about the situation and what's happening and the silliness of it.
Yeah.
And so, for instance, you've got a scene where people are eavesdropping, hearing about themselves, and it's finding ways to do that. So we have one of the guys underneath a table, and they know he's there, so they keep dropping things very heavily on the table. That sort of physical comedy really is where you need to go.
Okay. Do you have any productions that you've directed in the past that you think particularly stand out, or are there any ones that you remember very fondly?
That's so difficult, isn't it? Because they're like your children, which is your favourite child? At the Crescent, I suppose, things that I've really been proud of. I did a play called Piaf about the French singer Edith Piaf, which I think we did very, very well. I mean, it's not just me. We had a fabulous cast, and everything came together for that. And probably Chicago, the musical that I did here as well, very, very good. I mean, in my own work outside, I would have to say I did Great Gatsby for Semper Opera in Dresden, and that was pretty special.
Yeah, great.
So quite a few.
Quite a few. So what kind of comedy do you enjoy?
Oh gosh, I suppose I like wordy comedy that's kind of clever, really. You're going to say such as, and I'm not going to be able to think of an example, but I enjoy, the Noel Coward plays and Oscar Wilde plays where it's very witty and all of that sort of thing. But watching things myself, I'm very happy to watch all sorts of things that I find funny, like, from all the way back to watching Friends,
Yeah.
or all the way through to things now that we watch. I mean, Count Arthur Strong is something that we have on at home, and occasionally I'm okay with it, but other times it doesn't work for me. I think comedy is very, very personal.
Yeah.
And one person's comedy is another person's turn off.
Yeah, sure. If you could recommend one other Shakespeare play to our listeners, what would it be and why?
I have been involved with Midsummer Night's Dream about 3 to 4 times, and every time I go back to that, I think it's just the most perfect play. Yeah. And it's probably one of the most accessible Shakespeare's. Nothing terrible happens in it. There's no blood and guts, but it's very funny, it's very touching, it's got beautiful language in it, and you can make it look exquisite. I think that's a great play.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bit of a cliche to say that.
That's all right. It's a cliche for a reason. So, Michael, tell us about your first love.
I come from a sort of a theatre-y background in that my parents met in an operatic society, and my sisters were all involved in things, and I, as about the age of 8 or 9, used to make all the neighbourhood kids be in a play that I had written and starred in and directed and whatever. And I in fact turned our garage into, because the car was never in there, into a theatre. And so that it's always been what I wanted to do, right from the get-go.
What's been the love of your theatrical life?
Oh, I suppose I do like large-scale things. I like musicals and plays with lots of people and all of those sort of things. I enjoy watching two-handers and things like that, but as a director, I want to be doing bigger stuff,
Sure, yeah, fair enough. So, can you tell us about the one that got away?
I've been very lucky, to be absolutely honest. I've had amazing opportunities, and they both in my professional work, but here, when I started here years and years ago, the chance to do things has been phenomenal, and to do stuff that you would never get a look at, professionally, has been wonderful. And then outside, being able to do large scale stuff has been great as well. So I mean the one that got away, strangely enough, is a production called The Happy Prince that I co-wrote with somebody, and we did a sort of a test performance in London with Janie D, Phil Daniels, various people like that, and it looked as though that was going to go somewhere, and the first lockdown hit. And so, I mean, like a lot of people, I think that we're going to look back on this time of lost opportunities. Not so bad for me at my age and with the stuff I've got behind me, but my heart bleeds for young people who at that point were about to go into something, or had started something, or had just gone to university or whatever. So I think it's a bit much for somebody with my luck to talk about the one that got away, because those are the people I feel for, really.
I mean, is there any talk or chance of it being revived now that the lockdown's hopefully coming to an end permanently?
It's going to be very difficult, I think, for new work to go on, because I think theatres are going to be very cagey about what they do. They're going to want to have things that they've got a reasonable expectation that they're going to get a good audience for. Of course, they might be right, they might be wrong. You can never really tell. But my instinct is that people are going to want big name people in big name things, surefire hits, because we've got to woo audiences back into the theatre. We've been people are coming back to the theatre, they are hungry for it, but there's still a little bit of an apprehension, a bit of a doubt. Will I personally as an audience member be okay, but is it going to go ahead? Will this be pulled? Because we've seen in the West End and everywhere, COVID has taken people out and the performance has been cancelled or whatever.
So, can you tell us about the time that you died on stage?
I have literally died on stage, which is great, but a bit uncomfortable. I suppose, really, if we're talking at the moment, we're in the Crescent Theatre. If I go back to talking about being in the Crescent Theatre, I was in a play with Ron Barber, who the studio is named after, his wife Brenda, and Judy Roden, another fabulous actor from this theatre. And it was called On Approval, and we had the two couples went away for the weekend to see if it was going to work out between them or whatever. And, hilarity ensues. And we used to have breakfast on there every day, but we didn't actually have to sort of eat it. So they kept producing the same breakfast day after day after day. Well, Judy, who was supposed to be giving me this porridge, indicated that it had in fact now gone solid. It was so old by tipping the plate. And I disgraced myself by laughing. So, not exactly dying on stage, but not doing what I was supposed to be, not what the job entailed, really. We sort of got out of it, and we did one of those awful things that actors do about going, the public never saw it, never noticed.
Is that true, or is it just that what you've convinced yourself?
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Oh, dear. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Michael. It's been a joy to talk to you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
That was Luke Plimmer talking to Michael Barry. Now, it's time to catch up with our Backstage pass holder.
We did have a couple of audio issues because the person we're interviewing has some electronic equipment. Just bear that in mind and try not to notice it. Although now I've mentioned it, it might become a bit more noticeable than we intended. Anyway, let's head backstage. How are you getting on, John?
In the old days, say ancient Greece, 2,000 years ago, for example, health and safety, fire evacuations, and even indoor theatres were not around. Actors were free to just get on with performing. They were free of responsibility for an audience and left to revel wholeheartedly in their epic art. One can only blindly conjecture that audience members roamed like goats on Greek hillsides, settling in view of the stage as the whim took them, calfskin full of wine or mead. There they would spend 2 or 3 days wrapped up in a Dionysian festival of theatre. If only we could be so carefree today. Everybody knows the show must go on. But in this day and age, the show can only go on if the audience is issued with tickets, welcomed into the theatre building, watered, given sustenance, flogged programmes, shepherded to seats and supervised serenely from a loving but polite and firm distance. Today's Backstage Pass has been turned on its head and is actually the Front Stage Pass. I'm spending this evening front of house, FOH, here at the Crescent Theatre with Elliot Mitchell. Hello, Elliot.
Hello.
Welcome to Amateur of Life and Death podcast.
Thank you.
Elliot, what's going on in the theatre tonight and what's your role in it all?
So this evening we have a touring production of an adult pantomime in the main house that has sold really, really well, so it's a really busy night. And then we've also got a dress rehearsal for 2 of our upcoming shows in the studio as well. And then a couple of the little bits and pieces around, so quite busy. And
what's your role in dealing with those things going on?
So this evening I'm the duty manager. So I'm the manager who is going to look after the whole thing and make sure everything runs nice and smoothly. From a couple of hours before people arrive all the way up until everyone leaves and tidy up and everything at the end.
So you've got overall responsibility for everything front of house?
Yep, it's mine today. I'll look after it all today.
Cool. And how long before a performance does your work begin? And what preparations do you have to make before the doors open to the ticket holding public?
For today, for the actual on-the-day prep, we start about an hour and a half to 2 hours before the show start time. So today's show is at 7:30, so I arrived at about 5:36ish. And at that point, I just double-check with all of my team, to check everyone is all okay and knows what's happening. I have to write up a board that tells everybody what's going on in the building today, how many audience members, if there's any access patrons, how many tickets we've sold.
So that's like the briefing board?
The briefing board, yeah. It's a master of everything that goes on. So if anybody has any questions, so everyone knows what's happening today, and it's all on there, all described. So I have to fill all that out, start a couple of reports ready for me to fill on throughout the evening.
Right, and what are those reports?
So they are just reports on the evening. So I normally cheat a little bit and start them at the start of the shift, so I know what staff members are in what location,
right.
Which one of them, who my stewards were, so I can fill in all that data already. So once all the reports those reports are started, I have to do a walk around of the building, so just to check all the health and safety. So check that all the fire exits are clear,
right.
All of our audience advisory signs are all up and ready. Check that all the bar stuff is all running and everything. Lights are all on. Checking evacuation wheelchairs and evacuation points, and just generally check the whole building to check that nothing's changed since I was last in and that everything is all nice and safe to accept all our audience members. From that point then on, it'll be checking with my bar team who arrive at that point to check in they're all okay. Then after that, I'll be then briefing my stewards, so to make sure that they know all of the information for the day and what job role they'll be doing today and whether they'll be in what we call a meet and greet position. So downstairs, just meeting the audience, making sure they've got the right ticket for the right day, right time, the right show. Believe it or not, the right venue, because people do arrive for the wrong venue sometimes.
How do they react when you tell them they've arrived at the wrong theatre?
Normally absolute panic, because I go, you've got 10 minutes to race across Birmingham city centre, good luck. But it's very, very rare, but I've had it a couple of times in the past couple of years. And then from that point on, it'll be opening the front of house to make sure audience can enter, go up to the bar, and then I'll be opening the main house into the auditorium, and then getting the show to start, and my evening carries on from there.
And you are the one, aren't you, that tells the stage manager who's back of house on stage to the side of stage who starts the show. You're the one that tells them to start the show.
Yeah, so I look after the whole of front of house all night. But then the auditorium where audiences sit, we share that responsibility depending on the time. So it is the stage managers and the back of house and all the technicians. It's their auditorium until they hand it over to me. So it's a bit like tennis and a ping pong ball was the way I learned. Was the tennis ball then is with the stage manager for a bit. They look after the auditorium. Then when they're ready to accept audience, I then get given it. So the tennis ball comes to me.
Right.
So I then look after the auditorium for that 20, 30 minutes, depending on the show and the auditorium, to get everyone in. And then I throw the tennis ball back to the stage manager and the technicians, and they can go. And then the process is exactly the same in the interval and after the show as well. So it's a shared space that we both look after. So I'm in constant communication with everyone. So I'm constantly doing radio calls and announcements and everything the whole evening.
And the radio call, so you carry around what we used to call a CB radio.
Yeah, but it's a bit smaller luckily because it's quite heavy. Yeah. But yeah, I've got a radio that's constantly in my ear as well. So people constantly talking all the time. Right. I have a security radio sometimes as well for our security team for the whole site that we are on. I also got a pager, which if the fire alarm goes off, so if you've ever been in the theatre when the fire alarm goes off.
So you've got two separate radios.
And
a pager.
And a pager. The list goes on.
Yeah.
But that vibrates and tells me that the fire alarm started going off.
Right. When was the last evacuation? They're not very often, are they?
No, so we do training ones every 6 months.
Right.
So our last training session was in January. So all the staff have done it in January and all are very clued up. And we do regular training sessions. My last one that I did was about 3 years ago. Well, in the studio, so it's ages and ages ago since we have live ones, but obviously we've been closed for a bit.
Theatre can be seen as a glamorous thing, but I'm sure buried in the nuts of front of house activities, many of which you have just taken us through, there are plenty of unseen tasks. What's the least glamorous part of the job?
It's got to be cleaning for me because I do not like cleaning. But if it's like a big all-day hire, so on Sunday we've got a big competition that's going to be in for about 12, 13 hours a day. It's down to me as the duty manager to clean the toilets and check that they're clean. Right. The other thing that's not fun is we have to do a beer line clean.
Oh, yes.
So all of our beer lines have to be cleaned.
But isn't that when you get to drink loads of beer because you're going to throw it out?
No, it just has to be thrown away because it's then contaminated with chemicals and stuff, so we just throw it away.
Oh, I see. I've always thought that you clear the lines means you get absolutely drunk for free.
I wish. No, unfortunately not.
Oh, well. So cleaning the toilets and cleaning the lines. And this hire that you've got in that's 12 hours long, what sort of show is that?
So this is a dance championship.
Oh, yes.
So there are 200 sort of children / young adults, and they just basically do loads of dance pieces throughout the day with a little lunch break and then some awards at the end. And that's in the main house with 200 competitors and then 320 spectators.
Wow, that's got a lot.
It's going to be a very, very long Sunday for me. I think I'll start at 7 a.m. and I'm not going to finish till about 10 p.m. or something.
That is a long day.
Yeah.
That is a long day. And from experience, I know that the people doing these dance competitions, it's serious stuff.
Oh, it's very serious. Like they train for months and months and sometimes even years for that very moment. So it's always quite heightened. And
I stewarded a dance performance once and I had no idea what I was walking into, but it's so serious.
Everyone takes it so seriously.
Yeah, and they are absolutely brilliant dancers.
It is really good to watch them, but it is a serious day.
Mm-hmm. And can you tell us about a particularly tricky time you've had managing the front of house and how you've overcome it?
Oh, I've got a couple of stories. I think actually the best one. Always the funniest bit. Or it's like when we do tribute shows, so like George Michael. A lot of people that enjoy a little too much pink gin. It's normally the good one and get a little bit drunk and can't get up the stairs without a bit of a hand. But yeah, it's always just,
Do you ever watch any of the tribute shows? Are they any good?
We do have quite a few good ones here, actually, that are really, really good and are very, very true to the normal person that did it before. I watch little bits of most of the shows, so I pop my head in and watch little bits of each of them just so I get an idea. Stuff we do have here is really good, actually.
So recent tributes, we've had Madonna in, haven't we?
Yeah.
We've had George Michael in.
They're coming back again in a couple of months' time.
And Fleetwood Mac have been in.
Fleetwood Mac. We've got to take that one coming up soon. Michael Bublé, not at Christmas. He's coming in a couple of weeks. Who else? Got loads of tribute bands.
So you get a real variety of shows here at the Crescent. So it's not just the Crescent Theatre Company, which is the members of this place. You also do hires, don't you? And
we have so many hirers in.
yeah.
So in March we have 44 performances in this building within 3 venues over the 31 days, and that's with some days off.
Wow.
So there's a couple of
busy, isn't it?
March is very busy. There's a couple of nights where we have all 3 venues in use. Which is
When you say 3 venues, you've got the Ron Barber Studio, main house.
Yeah.
Is this in here the third?
So this is the underground stage space. So we can have up to 340 in the main house auditorium, another 120 in the studio, and then another 40 in the underground as well. So if we're at max capacity, we could be heading towards the 500 mark quite easily.
Yeah.
Which is always...
Which a lot of people...
It's a lot of people to get through an interval in 20 minutes and get in and out of the building as well.
Yeah. And just for people who know the Crescent Theatre, this third venue that we're sat in now is actually quite a new endeavour. It is the rehearsal room, but by night it is becoming... What's its name?
So it's called the Underground,
The
we call it.
Underground.
So the underground space is for more sort of impromptu, sort of smaller scale performances. So it's only for 40 people. But we can lay it out in cabaret style, in thrust, in the round, end on. So we can be really, really flexible in this space. And it's about £40 a night to hire.
Oh, so it's really cheap.
Yeah, it's aimed at like smaller scale performance people that want to try some stuff out in this building. So we've got like scratch nights.
What's a scratch night?
So scratch night is normally a company organise it, and there's like little slots about 5 minutes, and people can come and just bring something to the table and try it. Yeah. So the one in next week actually, we've got some spoken word, some musician bands, people, some poetry, a bit of theatre, and they just
is that all on the website?
Yes, everything we ever do is on the website. Apart from there's a couple of shows that we don't sell tickets for, so we normally don't put them on the website. So, for instance, the dance competition, they deal with everything themselves, so we don't put it on the website.
So there'd be a lovely intimacy to anything that's put on in this space, because as you say, there's only room for 40 people, so it'd be much more of a sort of group experience.
It is really nice in here, actually, and it's really good to get audience feedback as well. So there's a couple of things that where they ask the audience what they thought about the piece. I've had musicians in here as well, which is really good for like really close contacts, like hand stuff. It's a really good space.
Interesting. So yeah, if you're listening and you haven't been to see the Underground venue, then come and see something at the Underground. Yes. And I've never seen anything at the Underground, and now I plan to.
There's about 3 or 4 shows in March in here, actually.
Yeah, well, I should be at one of them, hopefully. So, theatres are often, and we've talked a little bit about all the different types of shows, and we've just talked about all the different venues within this overall venue that we've got in here now. So we've got the main house, the studio, and this smaller underground venue. And theatres are as much about the audience as the show. Do different types of performances attract different sorts of audience members?
Completely. So, for instance, in the main house tonight, it is an over 16 audience, so they have to be over 16 to come in. It's an adult panto, there's a lot of swearing. So it's over 16, whereas in a couple of weeks' time, we've got loads of performances of Macbeth, which are aimed for schools, and got loads of GCSE students coming to see them. And then the weekend after that, we've got a dinosaur show, which is aimed at children from 2+, so there's loads of children as well.
And a dinosaur show?
Dinosaur show. Real-life dinosaurs. Real-life dinosaurs in, like, I don't know how it's like puppetry as well.
And is that main house?
Main house as well.
So dinosaur puppets?
Dinosaur puppets. Life, like,
Life?
2+.
Right, okay.
So it's normally like families bring with parents and stuff. And that's completely sold out. Macbeth's sold out.
Really?
This night's sold out. So we have, like, a real variety of things. I always say we have something for everybody. I can find you a show that you might enjoy in the next couple of months easily.
Yeah. And when you see somebody, can you just think, I know what type of show that person would go to?
Not quite. I always know when the show information I've got next week, when I do orders and stuff, I sort of can guess what they're going to drink and buy and stuff. So I can normally be like, okay, I know that audience is going to be like a bit of pink gin. Thirsty. Or they're going to be like snacks, like a lot of popcorn, crisps and everything.
Excellent. And Elliot, you're currently Deputy Theatre Manager here at the Crescent Theatre. How did you end up doing this job? And what has your journey to this point involved?
Quite a lot. So I started at the Crescent about 3 years ago now as a member. So I started actually acting was the first thing I did here. So I acted in Let the Right One In the studio, which was nearly 3-4 years ago now. So I was acted in that, and
Was that the vampire thing?
yeah, the one with vampires.
With loads of fake blood and like gory effects.
Gory effects. So there was one part of the play where I had to pretend I'd just been gassed and was lay on a bench in just my swimming trunks. And then somebody had to pretend to throw acid over someone else, which was just cold water. And it always splashed on me, and I always jumped. So I was a useless gassed person because I was just jumping. And that was the point where I went, I don't want to be acting anymore. So I started doing loads of stage management as well as studying it at university. So I joined the stage management team and the membership here. And then I got hired as a technician here. So I worked as a casual technician and worked back of house doing loads of shows as well as stage management. From then on, I then jumped onto duty management and bar because there was...
God, you've done the full...
I've done the whole yard here.
Yeah.
So I was duty manager in bar before COVID hit. And then when we came out of COVID, the position came up, which is now to look after box office, all the front house stuff, furniture hire, being as deputy manager of hirers and stuff. And that came up and I took it and I'm here now somehow.
Brilliant.
But yeah, I've done everything all the way around.
And I suppose that helps because you've got an understanding of every sort of part of the theatre, all the different departments.
Yeah, because I can line manage all of them as well and look after all of them at some point or another. So it is helpful to know everything.
I suppose that makes the job a varied, interesting job.
No 2 days are the same.
Exactly.
No,
You've got all these different lines of communication going into your body. You've got your radios, your 2 radios, your phone, your pager, and all the different departments, all the different types of audience members, stocking your bar. There's so much going on.
It's a really busy job and it's a really busy building.
So you're juggling a lot of... Are there any times where you're juggling but a ball drops?
Oh, completely. All the time. But I know that like there's a great team around me that I could be like, could you just look after this? Like on show nights, it's not normally too bad. Nothing normally goes drastically wrong, touching wood, of course. But it's not normally too bad. I can normally sort of cope with stuff. I'm used to it now.
And is it fun or is it stressful?
I'm going to say a bit of both. It has its fun times, and sometimes it is really funny and hilarious, and we have some really lovely companies and staff members. But it does get stressful here. There's a lot that goes on, especially if it's a really busy night when there's loads of things in and something goes wrong. Yeah. But it's all about just being calm and collected and be like, I'll deal with it. It'll be fine, and we'll just move on. Yeah.
And it is that calm front, isn't it? Even if you know behind your eyes there is a slight panic rising.
Screaming.
It's like being an actor on stage when you forget your line. As long as you're calm in front, nobody knows.
Just smile, everything's fine.
The show will go on.
It will go on, something will happen, a show will happen. Yeah. It'll be fine.
And Elliot, I'm going to be with you all evening to give our listeners a taste of front of house life. So can you let me know what you're off to do now, because it is a show evening, it's Friday night, you've got an adult panto in and it's a full house. And as you said, you've got 2 dress rehearsals going on in the studio. So that's a busy studio as well. Yeah. So what are you off to do now? What might I be doing? And will you check in with me after the interval when things calm down a bit?
Yes, hopefully calm down a bit. I'm about to go off and get all of our floats ready and get all my staff prepped ready so that they know what to expect. And just do a walk around the building, my health and safety check. Tonight's going to be very busy. I'm going to get a lot of steps in. I normally can do about 10 to 15,000 steps a day here.
You're joking.
Because it's just up and down flights of stairs all the time, especially if all 3 venues are in use.
You do over 10,000 steps in a shift?
Yeah, I can get a lot in. If it's like, say, Sunday, I will easily get nearly 20,000.
That is such a saving on your gym membership.
Oh, I don't need to go to the gym.
You don't need to bother.
But yeah, we'll check it after the interval. It's going to be very busy. I'll be running around. But once the show's in, it calms down for it's an hour-long act 1, hour-long act 2, so it calms down a little bit. And then the interval is just madness of 20 minutes, and then it calms down again.
And what will I be doing?
You can have a follow for me for a bit. We can show you around some of the little bits and pieces that you might not see.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
And then we'll just have a walk around and we'll just greet audiences and be around for the audience.
Happy day.
So what issues are going to arise this evening, and then we'll...
I'm sure it's going to be like a plain sailing through a crystal clear sea with no waves whatsoever, just like a mill pond.
We can only hope and pray.
Duty manager to the main house venue tech, that's clearance.
Thank you very much.
I said, hello boys and girls! It's Buttons here, are you ready for a night of naughty grown-ups pantomime? Oh no you're not! Oh yes we are! Oh no you're
So, Elliot, it's 10:30 now. We last spoke properly at 5:30. So,
Welcome to my days.
so how has this evening gone?
Quite smooth, actually. It's gone pretty easy, especially with the amount of 250 audience members. It was quite smooth and quite easy. There's a couple of issues, but there always is.
Yeah.
Most of them not related to this show, actually. It was other things in the building, but it's all been pretty fine. The audience have loved it.
Yeah, they've been a
it's great
lively
show.
audience, for
They've
sure.
been a lively audience. They've been a drinky audience, but they've been really lovely. Really enjoyed the show, and it's a great show as well. So.
And we had one guy who was in the wrong place, didn't we?
The wrong guy who came, as I said, to the wrong show.
Yeah.
So I told you it would happen. For wrong show for the wrong date. Yeah, but it's just these extra little bits that throw me during a shift.
Now, Elliot, regular listeners will know that a staple of the Amateur of Life and Death podcast is, once more unto the trivia breach thou wilt be thrusted like a cuckold in merry springtime. What I'm saying is, the Crescent Theatre is no stranger to the bard, and to prove the point, we'll be staging the Shakespearean comedy Much Ado About Nothing from the 2nd to the 9th of April in the Ron Barber studio. To warm us all up for this Elizabethan ribaldry, for this episode's trivia quiz, may I present To Guess or Not to Guess, which is Shakespearean for saying, can you guess the Shakespeare comedy? There are around 12 surviving comedies by Shakespeare, depending on how you classify his plays, of course. Some of the common features of a Shakespeare comedy are
1. Mistaken identity and misconceptions. Shakespearean comedy is filled to the brim with situations where characters impersonate, or are mistaken for, somebody else, especially amongst lovers. In As You Like It, Rosalind impersonates a man in order to mentor her would-be lover into the man she secretly desires. Whether it's down to circumstances or plain old-fashioned deception, the humour comes from how we as the audience are aware of the true nature of their predicament and witness the hapless characters get ever more stuck in the lies and confusion. 2. Fate and the fantastical. Shakespeare's comedies often invoke the supernatural and tend to portray humans as mere playthings in some grand mystical game. Character revelation can sometimes be portrayed as the consequence of events beyond human control, or even our mortal understanding, lending a kind of dark, existential humour to the plays that audiences can still relate to today. 3. Idyllic settings. Several of Shakespeare's comedies have highly imaginary settings. The magical wood outside Athens in A Midsummer Night's Dream, or the Forest of Arden in As You Like It. Shakespeare was unusual for finding far-flung and fantastical locations for his comedies, as in his day, stage comedy regularly had a contemporary and English, often London-centric setting. 4. Marriage. Conventionally, marriage in Shakespeare's time represented harmony and the promise of regeneration, and allowed Shakespeare to end his comedies on a hopeful note. So important to Shakespeare is the symbolic power of marriage that some end in more than one marriage. Both A Midsummer Night's Dream and Twelfth Night end with 3.
Thanks, Laura. Elliot, will you choose to guess the title of a Shakespeare comedy from either the one-liner plot summary for full marks, or the longer synopsis, which is a paragraph of information about the play, for half marks? Or will you choose to not guess at all? Simply say, to guess if you want to guess, or not to guess if you don't want to guess. And just as a heads up, I think this is possibly the hardest trivia quiz we've done in all 8 episodes. But I am sure there are some real Shakespeare aficionados listening in who will straight away be able to guess the answers. So, your first, we'll do 3 with you, Elliot, and then I'm going to deploy some elsewhere.
Please.
The first one-liner plot summary. Are you ready?
No, but okay, let's do this.
To guess or not to guess, identity theft runs rampant in a beach community. To guess or not to guess?
Beach community. I'm going to guess and embarrass myself, because the only one Shakespeare has known on beach is The Tempest, slightly.
I'm afraid not. I'll give you the longer synopsis so you get the second chance. The longer synopsis is, and I'll read this quite quick. Viola, separated from her twin, Sebastian, dresses as a boy and works for the Duke Orsino, whom she falls in love with. Orsino is in love with the Countess Olivia and sends Viola to court her for him, but Olivia falls for Viola instead. Sebastian arrives, causing a flood of mistaken identity, and marries Olivia. Viola then reveals she is a girl and marries Orsino. Is that to guess or not to guess for you?
I'm going to go not to guess because I have not the foggiest on what that is at all. That was...
Fair enough. I'm going to reveal the answer so the listeners at home don't spend the rest of their days on tenterhooks. That is, of course, obviously, Twelfth Night.
Of course. I don't know Shakespeare that well. Embarrass myself there.
Your second Shakespeare play, to guess or not to guess, from the one-liner plot summary is, are you ready?
Yes.
Some hooligans run away and end up getting their dream weddings.
Some hooligans run away. No, I need the longer one, not to guess.
Fair enough. The longer synopsis is as follows. 4 Athenians run away to the forest, only to have Puck, the fairy, make both of the boys fall in love with the same girl. The 4 run through the forest, pursuing each other, while Puck helps his master play a trick on the fairy queen. In the end, Puck reverses the magic, and the 2 couples reconcile and marry. Will you to guess or not to guess?
To guess, I can do that one. Midsummer Night's Dream.
Correct.
I got a
well
point.
done.
Half
You
a
got
point.
I got that one as well halfway through. Right. Play number 3. Here we go. To guess or not to guess. Here is your plot summary one-liner. Everyone wanders around the woods until the shepherd reveals he's a girl.
As You Like It.
Correct. Well done, Elliot.
I know that one.
You got 2 out of
Well, 1.5.
That's good. And just for our listeners, the longer synopsis of that is Rosalind and her cousin escape into the forest and find Orlando, Rosalind's love, disguised as a boy shepherd. Rosalind has Orlando woo her under the guise of curing him of his love for Rosalind. Or is it Rosalind? Anyway, Rosalind reveals she is a girl and marries Orlando during a group wedding at the end of the play. Simple. Who says Shakespeare is difficult? Well, I've had a wonderful evening, and I think this has been a brilliant insight into the busy and multifaceted world of front of house. Elliot Mitchell, thank you very much.
No worries, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Amateur of Life and Death podcast. And as usual, if you'd like to listen to more, make sure you subscribe at podcast.crescent-theatre.co.uk or via Spotify or Apple Podcasts to get the next episode. You can find out more about the Crescent Theatre Birmingham and our upcoming productions, including Much Ado About Nothing, by visiting www.crescent-theatre.co.uk, or you can follow us on social media.
Amateur of Life and Death is a Crescent Theatre production. It is researched and presented by Laura East, John O'Neill and Luke Plimmer, with research by Jessica Siposh. The music is by Brendan Stanley. The podcast is edited by Kevin Middleton.